So I have a very special presentation for you all today. It's called Teens Helping Teens Cope with Mental Health Challenges. I am going to be talking about my advocacy project, Brain XP, along with our system of hope. So I'd like to give you guys the rundown. In this presentation, you will learn my system for maintaining a healthy mind. You will discover the secret of finding courage within, utilize skills that will transform your coping strategies, and we're all going to become the advocates that we always wish that we had. The best part about all this is you can apply all of these strategies immediately. Please save your questions because there will be a Q&A at the end. I'm sure you guys can type them into the chat box, but if you want to come on video at the end as well to ask any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So just remember, we're going to do that at the end. Now, I will introduce myself, I promise, but I want to just get right to it. What is Brain XP? This is the focal point of the presentation, so I can wait to introduce myself. I want you guys to get the concept down right away. So Brain XP stands for Brain Expanded. This is the new way of looking at mental illness. So instead of labeling each other as mentally ill, sick, psycho, crazy, we actually just acknowledge that our brains are simply expanded. We think in ways that others might not. This term actually originates from when I was 13 years old. So I am 19 right now, but if we go back in time to when I was 13, I had recently been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Now, I was really fed up one day because I kept getting called mentally ill, and I really didn't like that term. So I was actually on a 20-minute dog walk with my dog Sparky and my mom, and I was telling her about it. I was like, it's just so frustrating being called mentally ill. I just hate that term. So she looked at me and she said, well, then let's think of something else to call it. Let's call it something different. So we bounced some ideas back and forth on this 20-minute dog walk. We're like, how about mental health challenges or maybe difficulties or issues or something like that? But it wasn't hitting me in the right place. It just wasn't striking me as positive enough. So out of nowhere, she goes, how about Brain XP? And I looked at her and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'd never heard of it before, and that's because it didn't exist yet. My mom created this term, Brain XP, and she said, listen, Christine, you and all of the other young people we know who are struggling with their mental health think in such incredible, insightful, empathetic, awesome, expanded ways. And I got it. Brain XP, my brain is expanded. I'm not sick or crazy. My brain is just expanded. I think in these unique, cool ways. So that's where Brain XP originates. That's where it comes from. My mom on a 20-minute dog walk. Nothing happened with Brain XP, this concept, for about 2 to 3 more years after that. But obviously it stuck with me enough and it's become something very, very special. So it's very important. And I want to tell you guys how it originated and where it came from. So thank you, Mom, for creating it, because it brought me to many cool places, presenting on different things like this and virtually and in person. And it's just the coolest thing ever. So thank you, Mom. And continuing with this Brain XP concept, I do want to mention that we are the new teen/youth movement. We're changing the language of mental health by focusing on positivity. In a very, very, very brief nutshell, we're teens helping teens, youth helping youth. We're helping each other. Now, before I introduce myself, sorry guys, I'm going to get there. I just want to let you guys know what Brain XP's mission is. What is our goal? Well, we want to promote the importance of mental health education in all schools, in all grades. We really believe that if we're taught about mental health and we have that education, we will have far more understanding than fear, and that's what's going to help us erase the stigma. So that's just something that we personally believe, and that's one of our goals. We also want to promote the critical need, emphasizing need, not just something we want, something we need, of student-to-student peer programs in all of our school systems. I had the honor of being the keynote speaker for a school district. I'm in San Diego, California. There's a school district near us called Poway, and they have a whole peer program in all of their schools in that district. And I got to speak for all of them. These students were incredible. All of them were telling me, they're like, I just want to make sure all the kids feel welcome and included and accepted. And I just want to make sure everyone's having a good time. If someone's sad, I go over and I comfort them. That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. Student-to-student peer programs in our schools. That's how we are teens helping teens and youth helping youth. So that's exactly what our mission is accomplishing that goal. Okay, now I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Christine Marie Frey. You can call me Christine. In the world of Brain XP, I go by Christine XP. Anything's fine. I'm good with anything. I am the founder of Brain XP. I am a mental health advocate, very passionate about this stuff, just so passionate. I'm an international award-winning author. We will talk about my book later in the presentation. I am a mental health blogger and vlogger, so blogs and videos. I'm a songwriter. It's my favorite coping skill. I'm a public speaker. Obviously, we're talking right now. But out of everything on this list, the thing that I would appreciate if you guys could take away is that I am my own mental health survivor. And I speak to a lot of youth and teens. And that's the one thing I want them to remember, because a lot of them are also mental health survivors, but they don't even know it. So very, very important. If you could take away anything, that last one is the most important to me. Okay, so this is where I have to tell you guys, I'm not a mental health professional. My training is my lived experience, but it's very good training. It does help you learn a lot. My realizations, my ambition, my struggles, that's what drives me to teach other people, which includes all of you today. Okay, now me personally, I've struggled with mental health for a while, having my own challenges, being Brain XP, but it's very hard sometimes for me to trust people. It's hard for me to just believe what people are saying, especially strangers. So for you guys, I am a stranger to you. I want you guys to believe what I'm saying. I want you to trust me. So let's build the trust. Let's get to know me. So in my early life, when I was very little, I was very happy. I was a straight A student. I had A's in every single class, every single year. I had tons of friends. I was the social butterfly, so I actually made friends with all the new kids and welcomed them, but I also had a ton of close friends too. And I was very interactive. I played all the sports you could think of. I played basketball for a year. I played soccer for a very long time. We'll talk about soccer in a bit because it has to do with my personal story. I played softball, and I mentioned softball because that was the most anxiety-provoking sport I've ever played in my life. So I only played for a year, but I did try it out. I did all the extracurricular activities, Girl Scouts, dance, talent show. I was just very involved with everything. Now I got into middle school, and when I got into middle school, 6th grade, that was tough. That was very tough. I knew nothing about mental health when I got into 6th grade. I just didn't think about it. I didn't know anything about it. I just didn't know. And so when I got into 6th grade, I discovered what anxiety is. Not by choice, but just because it happened to me. So like I mentioned before, very social. I would hang out with friends at their house. They'd come over to my house. We'd have sleepovers all the time. Totally fine. But all of a sudden, when I got into 6th grade, I went on this one sleepover. And I'd gone on the sleepover with my best friend, Bella. I went over to her house, been over there tons of times before, been on sleepovers with her tons of times before. But all of a sudden, this one sleepover, I got this pit in my stomach. I couldn't fall asleep, and I started to panic. And I didn't know what was happening. I was like, why can't I fall asleep? Why do I need to know what's happening? Why do I need to be in control of the situation? I was like racing thoughts, panicking. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I called my mom at midnight, and she came and picked me up, and we went home. Okay, that's all right. Happened one time. That's okay. Whatever it was, it's okay. This happened 3 more times in a row. And after that, I was like, this is actually a problem. I don't know what's happening. And my mom thought the same thing. She's like, you know what? This is a problem. We should deal with this issue. We should tackle it head on. Let's face it. And so she actually decided to put me into counseling. Now, I can't lie. When she put me into counseling, I was not happy. I was like, oh my gosh. My view of counseling at the time as an 11-year-old 6th grader was, I am not an okay kid if I have to get therapy. That's how I viewed it. That's the stigma that exists around this topic. My whole perspective has changed by then. Like, guys, by now, completely different perspective. But at the time, I was 11 years old. I didn't want to go to counseling. None of my friends went to counseling. Like, that's just something that I wasn't happy about. But I knew I did have a problem, and I knew that I needed to figure it out. So I did go to counseling, and the thing was that I entered counseling in September of my 6th grade school year. So at the very beginning of the school year. I had 7 months to figure out this issue because in 7 months later, I had my 6th grade camping trip. Now, for any of you guys, if you don't know about the camping trip or what that is, basically in 6th grade, you go on this big camping trip, and at my school, it's mandatory. Your parents are not with you. You are 2 hours away from home. So you're in the woods and this camping trip and everything. You're with your teacher and your classmates, and it's a bunch of sleepovers in a row. It's a big camping trip for a whole week. So I needed to figure out how to do a sleepover because if I wanted to go on this camping trip, which was mandatory at my school, I needed to be able to go on a sleepover. So I worked in the counseling center, It was weird. I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't. I had to talk about my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions and things like that. I had to fill out this thermometer every single week when I went in for a session and say, okay, this is where my anxiety level's at and all that different stuff. And so that is where I learned that there is an explanation for the panic and the wanting to be in control of things, that whole situation. That was anxiety. And I learned that in counseling. So I worked at the counseling center for 7 months, trying to deal with all these different issues that I had with wanting to be in control of situations and things like that. And then I got to the sixth grade camping trip and I was so nervous. I got on a bus with all of my classmates and my teacher, and we're driving away out of the school to go to this camping trip, and it's a 2-hour drive. And I'm just sitting in the bus seat and I'm like, okay, I'm praying. I'm a spiritual person. I will mention that. So I'm praying. I'm like, please let this go well. I can do this. I can do this. Come on. I got through the first day at this camping trip and it was time to go to sleep. And that's when I usually had my problems, was going to sleep. But I was so tired from the camping trip already, like from all the different things we were doing. I fell asleep like that. It was so easy. So after I made it through the first night, I'm like, I did it. What the heck? I did it. So after getting through the first night, I'm like, you know what? If I can do one night, I can do 4 more. And the camping trip was a huge success. It was a blast. I had so much fun. It was a great, great time. And I was able to finish all of the schoolwork in 6th grade based on that camping trip, because a lot of our schoolwork for the rest of the year had to do with your experience at camp. So it was a win-win situation. It came out amazing. Now, I will say, because the camping trip went so well, I stopped going to counseling after that because I figured the issue was fixed. Now, as we know, as many of you guys know probably, the issue isn't necessarily fixed. It might be manageable. You might be maintaining the symptoms and everything. But I never like to use the word fixed because it might never be fixed fully. You know, you have to work through these things and continue managing it. But because that was my mindset at the time, I thought it was fixed. I stopped going to counseling. But the summer after 6th grade was particularly difficult for me. I mentioned a couple of slides ago that I played soccer, played all those sports. Soccer was one of them. But soccer was my main sport. I played competitive club soccer starting from an early age. So I was really, really close with my teammates. So the summer after 6th grade, I actually broke my ankle for the second time. So if it was the first time, that's okay. I'll struggle through, I'll join the team, I'll practice when I can. This was the second time. I had to actually take time to recover with my injury. So because of that, I had to leave my soccer team. But as we know, or as many of you might know, when you're on a competitive club soccer team or any competitive club sport, you're with your teammates all the time. Practices, games, tournaments, traveling, you're just with them so much. They're like your second family. And a lot of these girls who were on my soccer team, my best friends on the soccer team, also went to school with me. So I had to prepare myself for the kind of almost devastation that all of these friends that I had were going to grow super close together that summer, and I would not be able to because I'm not on the team anymore. So I grew really distant. When I got into 7th grade, I learned what depression was, or what depression is. So in 7th grade, I came out of that summer. It was not the best summer. I went into 7th grade feeling very lonely. And lonely is kind of an understatement, actually, because I was watching my best friends grow super close in front of me at school now, too, not just with soccer, but at school. And I'm growing further away. I would watch them carpool every day after school. It was a hard time for me to see that happen. I was 12 years old, friends meant everything to me. So it was just a little bit difficult for me. So in 7th grade, I started to isolate a lot. Would never raise my hand in class anymore. I would never speak unless someone spoke to me, which is not like me. I talk all the time. I used to, now I do, but before, in that period of time, I just stopped talking. I didn't know what to say. And then I started crying every single day at school. And I mean like every single day. In class, crying, not like noticeable, but I would just be crying to myself, and at recess at the lunch tables, I was not having a good time. I was very sad, and I didn't really know why. I didn't understand what was happening. I need to mention this was a school issue. At home, my home life was really good. It was pretty good. So my parents didn't know anything about this crying issue or me feeling lonely or isolated. This was a school issue. So my teacher was the first person to notice this. He tried to approach me in the best way he could, very calmly, very kindly, just asking, "Hey, is there something wrong? What can I do to help you? You're so sad. It's not you. I didn't know how to explain it. I couldn't express it. I had no idea what was happening. So basically what I did was I tried to explain, and every time I just couldn't get to the point. I didn't know what was happening. And I just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I feel like this. I just feel alone. I feel so sad. So at a certain point, my teacher had to make the phone call to my mom to let her know what was happening with me at school. And I will tell you guys, that was the most humiliating day of my life. I was like, oh my goodness, my teacher is literally on a phone call with my mother. And I was there when he called my mom. I was at home. My mom was actually, we just got home from school, and I walked inside the house, and my mom was still in the car in the garage. But I left the door to the garage and to the house open so I could overhear her talking on the phone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I kind of was. I wanted to know what was happening. So I heard her talking on the phone with my teacher, and I knew it was him. I knew by the tone of voice. She answered the phone really nicely. She's like, "Hi, this is Debbie." And then all of a sudden, that whole cheery voice just kind of turned something different. It was very sad, concerned. And I knew it was him on the phone with her. So that was when my mom got that phone call. Now, the one thing my teacher could not tell my mom, because he didn't know about it, because I wasn't saying anything, because I didn't even understand it, was that I was actually experiencing hallucinations. So I learned what anxiety was in sixth grade. I'm learning what depression is now in seventh grade. Now I need to understand what psychosis is. So I didn't tell anyone about the hallucinations because I didn't understand. I didn't know what was happening. So when my mom got that phone call from my teacher, she decided to put me back into counseling. Now, this time I went to the same counseling center as before, but it was with a different therapist. My therapist from before had moved on to another practice place. So I was basically with a new therapist, and I told her about 2 sessions in, I believe it was. I told her, I said, it is kind of weird, but sometimes I see shadows on the ground, but the sun isn't out. Like, I don't understand why that could happen. And sometimes I'll look into my friend's eyes, like my friend Lorraine. This one time I looked into her eyes were completely black. And that's not her normal color of eyes. And this one time I walked by my room, peeked inside, and sitting on my bed is my favorite stuffed animal. And it looked completely black, but that's not how the stuffed animal usually looks. So I told that to my therapist like 2 sessions in, and she looked at me and she said, "You know what? This counseling center is actually not the right place for you." At first, I was like, seriously? Like, nobody wants to help me? It was a blessing in disguise that she said that, because she actually referred me to an early psychosis prevention center program called Kickstart. Kickstart is a county funded program in San Diego, California, which is where I'm from. And that is where I started getting the help that I needed. But I will tell you guys, when I went home that day after she referred me to the program Kickstart, I didn't know what psychosis was. So I actually had to go home and I Googled it. I'm like, what is psychosis? And it said, okay, it's like a detachment from your mind and reality. Like, there's this little disconnect there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not happy that this is happening to me, but I am so happy there's an explanation for this. I was really, really relieved at that point that I wasn't crazy or something. I just need to know what was happening. So that was really helped me feel more content that I knew what was happening. So I did go back to counseling, but then I went to this psychosis prevention center, which is where I started getting the help that I needed. Tons of treatment there, therapy of all kinds, and we'll talk about that more later. But therapy of all kinds, prescribed meds, that is where I started getting the help that was definitely needed. Now, I do want to mention this all kind of transpired and happened when I was in seventh grade and eighth grade, the psychosis part of this. Now, I will say what you see on the screen right now, these were my main challenges. I was self-harming, I was running away from home, I was hospitalized, and eventually I was expelled from my school about 6 months before my eighth grade graduation. This is the main stuff I was dealing with. Like, I had symptoms, yes, but these were my challenges. I was in treatment, like I just told you guys. I was at Kickstart, this early psychosis prevention center. So I was getting therapy, tons of therapy, guys. I'm talking individual therapy, family therapy, multifamily group therapy, occupational therapy, school therapy. Like, they were helping me with the IEP process and all those different things. I was put on the path of getting prescribed meds, that long, long road. And I just started it when I was 12 years old. But I was still very lonely and I was still very scared. I had hardly any friends left, which is really important to remember. So I had no teen to talk to or to relate to. Now, I'm here to say there's no right or wrong path to a healthy mind, but I don't want anyone to go through what I did to figure it out. There is a better way. But let's talk about the hard way for a second, because that's how I started my journey. I kept quiet and I minded my own business. I waited for my symptoms to settle, but they never did. I only acted when things got too far, such as self-harming and running away from home. I did not have a guide to navigate the struggle. I want to share with you guys today the better way. What if I told you that you could enter into an open community and share your struggles? Connect with individuals who have walked in your shoes. They might still be walking in them right now. Preemptively battle the demons within and be a light for future teens, for future youth, for future generations to come. This sounded great to me, but I did not know how to achieve it. That's when I sat down with my mom and we thought, you know what? How did you do it? How did you do it, Christine? How did you get from where you were at to becoming an advocate at the end? And we sat down and we created it. Brain XP System of Hope. This is the system that I use, basically. It's my journey that I did. It's a system providing you hope and encouragement to keep going and to never give up. It stands for HOPE, and it's 4 steps. It's healthy mind, open sharing, positive coping, and the last step is empowerment. Now we're going to go through each of these steps a little bit more just so you can get an idea of what they're all like. So we start with healthy mind. Now, healthy mind is building the foundation. How do we build the foundation? This is a brief list of things that I've done to build my healthy mind, build my foundation. Obviously, everyone is different. You can add to this list what you need to do for your life, but this is what I did. I exercise, I eat healthy, get enough sleep. That one's hard for me because I like to stay up and watch Netflix and stuff, but sleep is important. Socializing, completing schoolwork and being productive, and sticking to a schedule and a routine. Like I said, this is what I do to build my foundation and my healthy mind. You might be different, and people that you work with or your children or whoever you know who's struggling might be different, but this is what I do, and it's helped me a lot. Moving on to the second step in the system of hope, we have open sharing. So we did healthy mind, we've built our foundation. Now we are going to openly share and share the foundation that we've built. So how do we do that? Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this step in the system of hope is the hardest for me because we have to start talking about it and not internalizing. So I kind of give the example when I talk about this step as a lot of times we put up these invisible barriers, like an invisible wall, and it just keeps people out. It leaves us feeling numb, but it leaves us feeling no pain and no hurt. No one can hurt us. We don't feel pain. But we don't want to live with this wall up forever, you know? So open sharing is not breaking that wall down at all. It's just cracking it. So eventually you can push it down yourself. So how do we do that? We have to talk about our struggles. We can internalize them. For me, I know there's always a blow up point, and it's never good when you have that blow up point. So I can internalize, I have to talk about it. I also say to start small. Of course, if it's not an emergency or a crisis, I would talk to my friend about my struggles. So I think I mentioned Bella before from the sleepover issue. Bella, I would tell her every single morning before school, we'd actually go, she'd braid my hair in the bathroom before school. And I would just tell her, you know, I'm not having the best day. I'm not, it's getting kind of hard to get through school today or whatever. And I would just tell her that. I don't have to say, I ran away from home last week. I am seeing and hearing demons. I am depressed. I didn't have to say that. All I said was, you know what, I'm having a tough day. And the amount of support I got from her and from my other classmates for the rest of that day was incredible. They just want to be supportive if they know how to be supportive. And sometimes it's overwhelming to hear all of the details, you know? So open sharing is just starting to openly share just a little bit. And I always say, be accepting of help. It is a sign of strength, not weakness. And that's very important to remember. Now we have the third step in the system of hope, which is positive coping. So we have built our foundation with a healthy mind. We are openly sharing the foundation. Now we have to maintain the foundation that we've built. We do that through positive coping. Here are some brief list of coping skills. Like I said, we're going to add to these interactive skills, being with people, helping other people, personal coping skills like creativity or mindfulness, positive everyday practices like gratitude. This is great, but where can we find all of these coping skills? So we have something very, very special on brainxp.org. That's our website. It's called the BrainXP Teen Toolbox. What is this? So it's basically a massive list of useful coping skills that you can turn to during hardship. It's really for anyone, but it's great specifically for youth and teens. Not only is it a huge list of these coping skills you can try out for yourself, but there's also a 5-part coping skill series that teaches you how to use the coping skills. So not only do you get this list of different coping skills you can use, you are taught how you can use them to help you in your life. And lastly, in the system of hope, we have empowerment. This is my favorite step of all time. And basically for empowerment, I go through a 3-step process. You can do this 3-step process yourself as well. You could add to it, take away from it. You can do it in a different order than me, but this is just how I do it. I learned to advocate for a cause. My cause is mental health. Yours might be different. Then I learned to advocate for myself. Then I learned to advocate for others, which is what I love to do today. So we want to encourage others to talk positively. That's the main word here, positive. We want to acknowledge mental health challenges in positive ways and acknowledge that our brains are expanded. We are brain XP. Now, I said toward the beginning of the presentation, if you remember, I said we're changing the language of mental health by focusing on positivity. So in order to change the language, we have to know how powerful it is. Language is power. It shapes how we see and understand humanity, and our words influence our way of thinking, feeling, and believing. It's so powerful. Okay, this is a very, very interesting quote, and I love to share it. Robin Sharma said it best. Words can inspire and words can destroy. Why would we choose to destroy others and label them as mentally ill, sick, psycho, or crazy when we can inspire each other and be brain XP? That's the question I want you guys to think about. Obviously, you don't have to answer out loud or anything, but just please think about that because it's very important. Okay, this is my least favorite slide in the presentation, just because I really don't like talking about stigma, but it is important that we talk about it because we have to know what it does to us. So stigma prevents us from talking about mental health challenges. It shames us into silence. The result of that is fear to seek treatment. That's not a good thing. So I say we must dramatically change the language of mental health. Okay, stigma, least favorite slide. This one, we are awesome. This is my favorite slide in the presentation because we are awesome, and this is so important to remember. People struggling with mental health challenges possess incredibly positive qualities that are often overlooked and go unnoticed. It is time to acknowledge them. We are intellectual, we are creative, we are empathetic, we lead inspirational lives. These things can't be overlooked. They're so important. Now, this is the golden rule of mental health, of brain XP, of everything that we're talking about. Positive characteristics equals positive perceptions, equals no stigma, equals no more fear of mental illness. I used all equal signs because math is very difficult for me. I thought this is the most basic way I could do it. Don't confuse, just let everything equal each other. No more fear of mental illness because we're brain XP and because we will understand each other and not fear each other. Brain XP is based off of one truth, and that is that teens relate to each other more than to adults. We need a deeper level of support coming from our own age group. The impact of friendships at this time. I said this earlier in the presentation that it was very important to remember because I lost all of my friends. I had no teen to talk to, no teen to relate to, but by advocating for Brain XP's mission, we can absolutely solve this problem. So I want to remind you guys one more time what Brain XP's mission is. We are promoting the importance of mental health education in all schools, in all grades. We are promoting the critical need of student-to-student peer programs in all of our school systems. That is our mission. I had to say it again to make sure you guys remember it. And I always put this slide in here. Understanding is greater than fear. If we understand each other, we will eliminate the fear of each other. And that is just the most incredible thing we can do, especially with stigma existing in our world. Now, there is a missing piece. I tried to find materials from other teenagers to read or watch, books, articles, videos, just something so that I could learn from someone my own age who's in a similar situation as me. But I couldn't find these materials. I looked for years, from 11 years old to 15 years old, and I couldn't find those materials. They were not easily accessible. So when I was 16 years old, that is when I got fed up enough and I was complaining. I'm like, why can't I find these materials? I said, stop complaining, sit down and make them yourself. So that's when I wrote my book, Brain XP, Living with Mental Illness, A Young Teenager's Perspective by Christine Marie Frey. And the thing about this book that makes it so special is that it's an autobiography. My journey, birth to 16 years old, the mental health challenges, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything is in this book. It is 10 chapters worth of my journey and my perspective. The cool part about this is that at the end of the book, my mom wrote a chapter from her perspective. My best friend Rachel wrote a couple pages from her perspective, and my grandparents did the same. So everyone has a piece in this book. Nobody is left out. Now, the Brain XP community, this is by far the most incredible part about Brain XP is our community. We are an all-inclusive teen mental health community. Now, I will mention anyone can join this community. You do not have to be a teen or youth. Anyone can join, but we focus on teen topics, teen mental health topics, youth-related topics. We are online and in person. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic right now, especially where I am at in California, we can't do the in-person stuff right now, but we will definitely resume and go back to those things when we can and when it's safe. But we are definitely thriving online right now. I want to mention that if you want to join our community, if you want to join our social media and everything, there will be a slide at the very end of this presentation that will let you guys know how you can do that with the contact information and everything. But for now, I just want to let you guys know what we are doing. So we are on a journey of hope and change. We are dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding our world today. Now, what does Brain XP actually offer? What does our project give you guys? So we have our website, brainxp.org. On the website, we have resources, helpful contacts specifically for teens and youth. We have our free newsletter sign up where you'll get free updates, free guides, free Brain XP content, so much more. You're the first to know about everything right to your inbox. We do live presentations and events presenting on Brain XP System of Hope. Now, usually I actually do these in person, but I am shifting over to virtual, for the time being, but I will be doing virtual and in person once it's safe again. We have mental health content, blogs, videos, podcast episodes, teen/youth related topics. We also have music. I've put out my own original music inspired by my lived experience. We are now starting to showcase a lot of our Brain XP community members' music, so stay tuned for that. You'll be able to see all of our community members' creativity on our YouTube channel and just throughout our social media, so please stay tuned for that. And of course, we have our social media spaces to connect. And again, you'll see the contact information at the end of the presentation. Now, the youth team, this is so cool that I actually get to talk to you guys about this today. It's brand new. We have a youth team. We are looking for youth volunteers, teenagers, who are passionate about spreading mental health awareness. We meet via Zoom once a month to plan out Brain XP's monthly mental health awareness campaigns and projects. And we actually just had our first meeting last week, I believe it was, last Friday. So we meet via Zoom. We just come together. We're all teenagers just trying to spread mental health awareness. We plan out Brain XP's projects and campaigns, and we are the ones who execute them. We're really focusing on our creativity, on our coping skills, and we want to show everyone that mental health awareness can be done through creative ways. So our youth team is incredible. All the kids on our youth team, the teens on our youth team are amazing, and they all just really want to help others and help others feel less alone. They all have that driven part of them that just wants to help others. So if you're interested in joining the youth team, or if you know a teenager who might be interested, please send me a DM. Again, you'll see our Instagram at the end of the presentation, but it's a DM to @BrainXP Project on Instagram. If you are interested, or if you know someone who is interested, I want to give you guys all the info before you decide to join, just so you know everything about it. But our youth team is incredible, and we are absolutely welcoming to everyone who wants to be a part of it, who are teenagers passionate about spreading mental health awareness. So absolutely incredible youth team that we have, but we'd love to build on it. So please contact me if you are interested, or if anyone you know is interested. And we're coming down to the end of the presentation. I just want to say that our voices are definitely being heard in our community. We've taken home a lot of awards, actually. Some are international, some are local. Again, I'm from San Diego, so you'll see San Diego Book Awards and things like that. But we love what we do. We're a community that's just so strong, and our voices are being heard, so we like to share that our voices are being heard. So you'll see some of our awards on the screen, but you'll also see some more here too. The one thing that I think we are really most proud of with our acknowledgements is that we have our own day in my hometown, San Diego. So we have a Brain XP Day. It's proclaimed by our Mayor Kevin Faulkner, as April 28th, every single year in the city of San Diego. Please stay tuned for what we're going to do this year, because it will likely be virtual, so you guys can be a part of it. Our youth team will be planning a lot of stuff for Brain XP Day. We are very excited about it, so please sign up for our newsletter, keep up with us on social media. I want you guys to know what's happening on Brain XP Day. It's going to be awesome. And also, I want to mention, I'm on several boards and councils. So some of them are local, where I'm from, San Diego, but I'm on the California State Behavioral Health Planning Council as well. I represent the youth voice, and I'm on a lot of national councils as well, and boards as well. The reason why I want to mention this is because if you guys ever have any issue or concern with how things are being done in the government or in the counties or whatever it is with our youth, and especially mental health related, or our teens and our youth, I get to raise your guys' concerns, your guys' issues at these meetings. That is what I'm solely there for. Yes, to talk about my perspective, yes, but I want to speak on behalf of all of our youth and our teens. So if you guys ever have any issues or concerns, please contact me. I get to raise these concerns at these meetings. I have the privilege of being able to do that. So please use me as a resource if that's what you, if you have any concerns or issues, because it's very important that we have our voices being heard as well. So the youth voice, absolutely important. It's just the most incredible thing that we can give to our community, is being able to share our voices from our youth perspective. And lastly, oh my gosh, we're at the end. Oh my gosh. Okay. So lastly, I just want to say with these words, welcome to the Brain XP community. I hope you feel at home. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I will be doing the Q&A. I just want to say thank you first. Here's all of our contact information for you to find everything that I've been talking about: social media, website, contact information, everything. I would love to open up to any questions now. If you guys have any, you can unmute yourself, I believe, at this time. If you have a question, or I can have the chat box look in there too. But I'd love to answer any of your questions now. This will be the time.
Christine, this is Bethany. There is a few in the chat box if you wanted to start with those. They're right down at the bottom, or I have them written down if you want me to just read them to you.
You know what? I just pulled up the chat and I'm just trying to, do you mind reading them to me? Just kind of having a hard time finding which are questions. Let's see.
Sure, yeah. So let me see. It looks like we have one. Would you help a youth in another state carry this forward in their area?
Yes, absolutely. So, and the cool part about our community, someone who's wants to be a part of the youth team, we are everywhere. We accept people from everywhere. So with the youth team, we are meeting virtually. So because of that, we will accept anyone from everywhere. Right now, we simply aren't necessarily big enough, sad to say, we're not big enough to necessarily have any structure for opening up these types of things in other states per se, but our community is all over, and our youth team has people from all over as well. So if that's the way you guys want to help spread it, that's perfect. But we don't really necessarily have clubs or school clubs right now, just because we aren't quite big enough. But if anyone wants to start a Brain XP club and spread our message and our awareness, we'd definitely be down for that. So you can always contact me if you have any ideas like that. But definitely the youth team is our first step toward spreading it nationally, and as far as we can. So, but yes, I'd love to spread this into other states as well.
All right, sorry, I have to scroll a little bit here. So we also had another one that said, what about youth in other states? Which I think you kind of answered that question. There was one that said, please let us know the minimum and maximum age for being involved as a volunteer for Brain XP.
Yeah, so we're looking for teenagers specifically for the youth team. Like I said, anyone can join the community, but for the youth team, we're really looking for teenagers. I think our youngest on our team is 13 and the oldest is 19. So we're looking for teenagers, yeah.
And another one saying, what do your youth volunteer do?
So the youth volunteers, we had our first meeting, like I mentioned just a little while ago. And what we're doing is we are planning out, giving ideas for topics. So each month we hold a different mental health awareness campaign through Brain XP. So what we do is we meet and we talk about, okay, what topic do we want to cover this month? This month we chose to cover gratitude and thank you, because Thanksgiving is coming up. So we chose that topic, and what we do is we just talk about what can we do to creatively spread this mental health awareness of thank you. So what we do is actually right now, I'll give you guys a little inside scoop. We decided that we're going to do a thank you project. We are creating a song, and we're going to create a lyric video for the song that surrounds the topic of being grateful and mental health. And that will be coming out in the month of November. Once December hits, we will have a new topic. We will talk about what we want to do. Nobody on our youth team, there's nothing that you have to do. So if you don't want to sing on the song, if you don't want to be part of something, that is totally fine. We're not here to make you uncomfortable or provoke any anxiety. We're here to just simply get your voice heard so that we can make really cool things. But the youth team generally creates it themselves, and I facilitate. I'm there to help them post the things on social media. I'm there to help them know if they're in the right direction. But I'm just there to facilitate. This youth team really does the creativity. And we do meet once via Zoom each month, but we also have an Instagram DM chat that we communicate from in between meetings. So it's really cool. You don't have to do anything you don't want to on the youth team, but if you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to me because I want to give you all the info. And that's the best way to learn more about it. I can kind of explain it more, but it's really best to just get the welcome packet and I can send that to you if you're interested in joining.
Christine, this is Jamie. What information or I guess feedback and advice do you have for parents who have children who might be struggling with this? I think it's good to get information from a youth's perspective on what it is they needed from their parent. It sounds like your mom did a really good job, or your parents did.
Yeah, it was really interesting because we didn't expect any mental health struggle to arise, but sometimes it just happens. So my parents, for lack of a better word, were a little unprepared, just like I was. But just because you're unprepared doesn't mean you're not good at what you do. So basically what happened was when I started struggling, when they heard what was going on from my teacher, what I needed from them was not necessarily to have so much questions. I really didn't want to answer. I didn't want to talk. There are certain questions that are important, and I understand that. But what I really needed to hear was that they were there for me. I am here for you, even when I felt like nobody was, because it's one thing to know people are there for you, people care about you, and it's another thing to feel that. Because I couldn't feel that at the time, it was so important that I knew that I was constantly being told that, because that's the only thing that kept me going to try to get to feeling that way again. So that's just me in particular. What I really needed from them was support, and that's exactly what they gave me. My mom actually started working at night so that she could take me to all of my therapy appointments throughout the day, because I was there a lot at Kickstart for these therapy appointments. So she started just dropping everything, and she took me to all these appointments. She would work at night so that I would be able to go to these appointments and feel comfortable, because I didn't want to go there without her. So, and obviously I understand that not all parents are in that situation where they can do that, but the fact that I could see the support, even though I couldn't feel it, that I could see it, that was something very motivating, even when I didn't feel motivated. So it motivated me to keep going, to try to feel that support again. So knowing that they're there for you, just not promoting the stigma aspect. There's a lot of parents that I've heard from youth that I've talked to who just kind of deny what's happening. It's like, you're fine, you're good. It's you're going through stuff, puberty, whatever it is. We don't want to be just like a checklist, like this is what it might be, this is what it might be, but you're just a teenager, so it's not that. We want to be heard, and we want to not feel like our feelings are invalid or they're not validated. So, and I'm speaking for myself and for the teens that I've heard from. I know everyone's different, but to feel like they just say, oh, I understand, when they might not understand, when they just saying that, it kind of actually can provoke some anger. Like, what you're saying you understand, but you don't understand what's going on in my mind. That was a problem for me as well. But knowing they're there, knowing that you're not alone, that they support you, is the best thing they can do. And try not to hover too much. Obviously, there are sometimes that they have to, but try not to hover too much. Let us feel like we're still our own person and we're still capable of doing things. But definitely being there to support. And also for myself with the medication route, I was very, very nervous about that. And so I didn't know how to take a pill when I first got my prescription. I'm like, I don't know how to take a pill. So my mom was really calm and kind with me, helping me learn these things, because when you have psychosis or depression or anxiety, it can be scary. Like, it's like, I don't know how to face this life by myself, but I don't want anyone to help me. That was my mindset at the time. So she was very, very helpful in helping me get through every single day, one at a time. And sorry I'm going on so long, but the one other thing that she did was she helped me track everything. So she created this spreadsheet, and I believe we actually have it on the website in our store. It's free to download the spreadsheet, but it's just to track, okay, what was my mood today? 0 to 10. On a scale of 0 to 10, what was my mood today? And I just write down a quick number. I'd say what made me happy today, or what made me sad today. Did I have any triggers? Did I use my coping skills? And honestly, I didn't have to fill out everything every day. I would just want to make sure I always put down my mood rate, because that was very important to us to know how things were going. So tracking these things and keeping the youth or the teen involved is very important too, because I didn't necessarily want to track everything, but having her there with me made it much easier so I didn't have to do it by myself. So that has definitely been a very helpful thing because it helped me learn my triggers and helped me learn my coping skills. So that's kind
Thank
of
you so much, Christina. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. This is fantastic feedback for parents who maybe have a kid who might be hitting some challenges and some struggles that need that additional support themselves as far as the lens of a child.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I love answering that question, even though it can be hard for some parents to hear. But yeah. Are there any other questions that we have here? I might have to look in the chat too.
Hi, Christine. I actually, if you don't mind, I'll say mine out loud.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
Yeah, so I'm Whitney. I'm from North Carolina, and I'm a youth and young adult peer support. And I really love what you have to say about trying to reduce stigma around mental health. Certainly in the western part of our state, there is a lot of stigma that exists around mental health treatment, and even just getting people in the door for things like peer support and regular counseling with school counselors. So my question to you is really, how do you address challenges around stigma, whether that's something that you come into contact with, or maybe your youth volunteers come into contact with, but tell us a little bit about the stigma piece of it.
Yeah, I think the best thing I can say with the stigma piece is that a lot of times the stigma is not just coming from people around, but from a lot of our youth, their own families. And that's really, really difficult. I can't relate to that because I've had such a supportive family, but a lot of the youth and teens in the community don't have that support. So, and that comes from the stigma and comes from all that a lot of the times. So, what I say is, you want to build a support structure because that's what's going to help you overcome the stigma. Stigma exists, and it's very, very sad that it does, but it exists. And until we can kind of make these big moves of understanding each other and get mental health education in schools and all that, we have to kind of take things one day at a time. The people in our community, the youth and teens, that's what I say, build your support structure. And if you need to use our community as that because you don't have it in your family, then use our community as your support structure, because the stigma exists. And when it's so close to home and everything, it's oftentimes much harder to overcome the stigma, especially when it's in the household. So having a support structure, whether it be friends or trusted adults or our community, that's what we need to help combat the stigma. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but I would just say that our community is there for everyone who's dealing with the stigma. And until we've got that education, we've got our mission going with the peer programs and all that, I think that's what's going to erase the stigma. But until we get there, we want to help each other along the way.
That absolutely answered my question. Thank you so much, Christine.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions? I'm going to look in the chat box too here.
Oh, I got one for you,
Okay.
Christine, so you don't have to go searching. So
okay, awesome.
The newest one here is, do you have any tips for helping youth who have never met or felt comfortable engaging in youth support?
Yes. It's kind of a tough one because everyone's different. I remember when I first started going to therapy, when I was dealing with the depression, I wouldn't speak to my therapist. I would just bring my mom in, and every so often she would help me talk. But the one thing that we did was my therapist had these little squish pigs. They're just little like figurines or whatever. It's kind of weird, but we just like roll them as if they were dice, and we just kind of play around and play some games and draw with these like sand drawing boards. It's kind of weird to explain, but if it's hard for like a youth or a teen to engage, sometimes we just want to not have to talk right away. And once we do start to open up, we really want to be heard. We want others to listen to us. So when it's hard to engage it usually it's the beginning is what I see, at least for myself and for the youth that I've seen. The beginning is always the hardest to build that relationship or that bond with whoever's trying to help you. But once you do, we don't always need tons of advice. We just want to be heard and we want to get it out, because a lot of the times we don't have anyone to get it out to. And we just want to have that release and express ourselves. So I guess tips per se, I'm not sure if I have any full-on tips, but just that day by day, slowly, because we don't just open up like that most of the time. It's hard for us at times, especially for kids who are depressed or experiencing psychotic symptoms. It's just a whole new world kind of what you're living in, and it's hard to translate it to the real world. So I would just say to be patient and to listen, and if they don't want to talk, you can do the talking, but also maybe to incorporate some type of games just to have something to do so that they can try to engage in something, even if it's not necessarily with you, if that makes sense. I hope that answered that person's question.
It said thank you, so I think we're good. And
Okay, awesome.
I think that's all. I think I've gotten everything from the chat. So didn't know if
Awesome.
anybody else had questions they'd like to say or type real quick. Nope, nothing coming in from the chat. So
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys again so much. This is my first national presentation, so it's been very, very exciting. I've been waiting for it, so very much appreciated for you guys listening, and I hope we can connect on social media or in any other way, but thank you so much.